Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Off Season, presented by Mass Mutual. I'm Zena Cada.
I'm Sabreena Merchant.
And I'm Ben Pickman.
And today on the show, the 2025 WNBA season has officially begun. I don't know why I said officially, but it's officially. But it happened, all right? Ring the bell. And I'm not referring to the Liberty, which we will talk about a little bit. The first weekend of games is officially in the books, and we are here to give you some piping hot, half-baked thoughts and takes on what we saw. But first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about some of these games, of course. Sabreena, Ben, y'all were both on the road for this. I was at home with the Valkyries versus the Sparks. How y'all feeling? What'd you guys see out there?
You know what I love about WNBA season relative to college is you can actually watch every single game. Like, I feel like I know everything that's happening, which in some ways is a good thing, some ways is a bad thing because I feel like I know too much. But I just love a 13-team league, nice tight-knit number of teams where I can really just dive into everything. It's delightful. Yeah,
that's so true. I felt like I was constantly overwhelmed during the NCAA season because even if I wanted to watch all top 25, there are like hundreds of other schools that are also playing and playing well. And I just felt like I was, not paying attention to them, and it didn't make me feel good. So yes, shout out to the WNBA. You can watch everything, even on like the times that you're not watching W. I was able to rewatch games after because I had open afternoons and other things like that. So yes, shout out to that. What about Ben? What you feeling after this first weekend?
I mean, I feel like I was still in a little bit of a bunker. Like, I was in Indianapolis. We're going to talk about Sky Fever in a little bit. And I spent a lot of my Sunday dealing with that game as well in the aftermath of it. So, certainly surveyed the whole league, watched it all happen. But, it didn't take long for the WNBA to have a busy first weekend. It happened right away.
Absolutely. They went right in. The drama immediately started. And Sabreena, you were in Dallas for Paige Bueckers' big debut. And the funny thing is that as a rookie, there was a commercial during the WNBA broadcast that she got a day named after her, I believe, in Minnesota. So there was so much going on the court with Paige, but there's also stuff going on off the court. What stood out to you in terms of Paige and the Wings?
Yeah, so her hometown of Hopkins, Minnesota, renamed itself Paige Bueckers for the day, and it was Paige Bueckers' Day on Friday in Hopkins. Unfortunately, Paige could not be there for said day because she was in Dallas playing a game against the Minnesota Lynx, for what it's worth, the team she probably grew up, rooting for and experiencing the greatness of women's basketball through, growing up during that Lynx dynasty of the 2010s. So that was a nice nod for Paige, right, to have that honor from Hopkins in addition to everything that was going on in her opener. But Arlington, Texas. This is the last year that the Wings are going to play there. It's a nice tight arena, no bad seats, but I can see why they're moving to downtown next season. It's a little hard to get to from the Dallas, downtown area, but really, really great environment. Honestly, like I thought. You could hear a lot of the fans that were obviously there really excited for Paige, but also really excited to see Enrique, really excited to see Nafisa Collier, just a good appreciation for everything that was happening in that game. Not a ton of Paige. I think this is going to be very much a learning period for the Dallas Wings. We've mentioned ad nauseum, they have 3 returning players from last season. They have a focal point in Enrique that is, the way she plays is very different from the way Paige plays. And getting the two of them, on the same page, for lack of a better word, is going to take some time. And I think we saw that, like there were some moments where Paige was getting her thing going, some things where Enrique was getting hers going, like some moments in transition, but it all sort of felt like disjointed from one another to me.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to see how, Chris Koklanis figures out how to meld everything together.
Yeah, I did a hit for News Nation about the WNBA, and I was asked about that game, and the way I characterized it was, you can tell there's still a few wrinkles to be ironed out, and that comes with time, of course. What's your one big takeaway from that game?
My one big takeaway is that power forwards in the WNBA are much bigger than power forwards in college, and Paige can't just switch willy-nilly onto everybody like she did in college. Nafisa Collier, taking her to the woodshed a couple times, but I'm excited to watch Paige in Dallas. I think nothing that happened in the first game makes me less excited to see what she's capable of doing during this season and beyond.
Absolutely. All right, Ben, I'm going to switch on over to you because you were in Indiana for the Fever season opener against the Chicago Sky. You got to tell me what that vibe was like inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
I mean, it was rocking. Fans started lining up like 9:30 outside the team store, outside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They were there very early, much to, I guess, maybe, I think a little bit of the surprise to like some people around the Fever organization, just people showing up, realizing like, hey, you could have gotten your t-shirts at like 11, 12, 1, 2. Like they weren't selling out of t-shirts on Saturday afternoon. The crowd itself, like super into it. Super animated. Pre-game, like there were all these fans who had made their way down as close as they could get to the court on the lower bowl, who were asking for signatures, photos, and all these players, Caitlin, Lexi Hull, Leah Boston, Sophie Cunningham, like they made sure to, as much as they could in that kind of warm-up window, like sign as many things, take as many photos as they could. And so I think I saw a lot of like very happy faces for a lot of fans who had made their way in early, and then like we got treated to a pretty memorable basketball game. We saw a new look Sky team with a revamped roster and a first-year head coach. We saw a retooled Indiana Fever roster as well. We saw a triple-double from Caitlin Clark, a double-double from Angel Reese. Aaliyah Boston had a double-double. It took her 9 games to get a double-double. Last year, she didn't get it to her 9th game. She had played really, really well right out of the gate this year. You saw a lot more chemistry and connectivity with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, and the Indiana Fever looked very, very impressive. I had seen them in the preseason against the Dream and was like, this is a good team, but we'll see what they are. It might take some time, and a week later, I feel like I watched a very different Fever team in action.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, the way Aaliyah Boston came out, it was so immediately apparent that the work that she did to expand her bag during Unrivaled was on display. I mean, she was putting the ball down on the floor. She was hitting the midi. She was faking handoffs. I was like, okay, someone was putting them work down in Miami, or should we say Doral, in Florida. But it was really cool to be able to see that. And I'll say the vibes that you're describing were very similar to what I felt, or what I saw at least at the at Chase Center for the Golden State Valkyries' very first opening game. Of course, the violet was everywhere. The vibes were amazing. It was so hard to hear in that arena, like even just trying to hear some of our correspondents, it was so hard to hear. Unbelievable performance overall by the Sparks. Ray Burrell got hurt. She'll be out 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury. But the highlight of that game was Kelsey Plum, 37 points in 40 minutes. If anyone's curious, about what her play is going to look like this season, like she'll be carrying a lot of the load, but she is definitely capable of performing. So I did want to shout out that game. Now let's go back to Indiana, because we got to talk about the big takeaway for you for this game, or the pivotal moment of this game. And I'm going to guess what it was, but I feel like you'll probably lay it out very beautifully for us. So what was that moment for you at the Fever Sky game?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's 2 moments. One, we'll throw out the piece of history. We'll acknowledge it. DeWanna Bonner moves into third all-time. Yes. WNBA scoring. She does it late in the game, around, I want to say, 2 or 3 minutes to go. She moves into third all-time with a pair of free throws, celebrated by her teammates, coaching staff. We should shout that out. Everyone was really, like, praising DeWanna Bonner and the career that she has had. Yeah. In terms of other moments, obviously the moment that I think most people, watched throughout the weekend, followed, came, at around the 4:38 mark of the third quarter. At that point in the game, it's a 14-point game between the Sky and the Fever. Indiana is ahead. And for me, this sequence actually starts on the defensive end of the floor for the Chicago Sky before they actually go the other way. And it is when DeWanna Bonner goes up for a fast break layup. And believes she is fouled by Rachel Banham, a Chicago Sky guard, and there is no call there. But you kind of start to see a little bit of a clunky sequence unfurling before your eyes. And so play then transitions the other way. Beck Allen of the Chicago Sky pushes the ball up the floor. She takes a transition 3. It does not go in. As that ball comes off the boards, Angel Reese appears to push Natasha Howard, the Indiana Fever forward, in the back. There's no call there. And Caitlin Clark, standing around the free throw line, points at the referee on the baseline. That's Roy Golbanian. I say his name because he'll come back into this story. Points at him, gesturing for a call. There is no call. Angel Reese then grabs the rebound. She is about to go up for a layup, and that is when Caitlin Clark pushes her in the back. Initially, it is called a common foul. They then go to the referees then look and review it. It is upgraded to a flagrant 1 foul. Angel Reese is assessed a technical foul. Aaliyah Boston assessed an offsetting technical foul. And Caitlin Clark, again, gets a flagrant one for the first time in her career. And it's kind of this very heated moment between the two teams. Clark ends up walking away. Boston kind of plays peacemaker, but also still gets a technical. She was surprised afterwards that she'd even gotten a tech, and, you know, kind of emotions heightened in the arena from that point forward. When Angel Reese went to the free throw line to take her flagrant foul free throws, like, she heard very loud boos from the crowd at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. She heard a lot of boos throughout the remainder of the game, frankly. You know, it definitely ramped up the energy and intensity in the building. And we should say from that point forward, like, Indiana closed the quarter on a 9-0 run. And it was shortly after that, 30 seconds after that foul occurs, that's when the Fever really blow it open. Again, it was a 14-point game when that foul occurs. So still certainly a competitive game, or a game within striking striking distance. But Indiana just kind of blows it open shortly after that play.
Now, I know, and Sabreena, you probably can attest to this, I know what the vibes were like on social media. I mean, it was literally clockwork, everyone being like, oh no. Like, everyone's heart dropping, because we knew that this incident would incite and spark a really hateful rhetoric that I think everyone had kind of gotten a break from, because we hadn't seen it in Unrivaled, right? And now we're going into the WNBA, and the first game between these two teams already sparks an incident in which fans can latch onto and utilize for whatever side of the discourse they want to be a part of. So on social media, it was just, you know, folks ripping Caitlin for being a spiteful player or a harsh player. Folks ripping Angel for being an envious player, a harmful player, a person that hates Caitlin Clark. It was just bad rhetoric, harmful rhetoric, dangerous rhetoric that had nothing to do with basketball on both sides on social media. What was it? What were you hearing in the arena? I know you said boos, but in terms of how Angel Reese was talked to and dealt with by the Indiana fans, or even how Caitlin was supported, what were you really hearing throughout the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we were sitting kind of press seats in Gainbridge Fieldhouse are on an upper level compared to some other courts. It's much more akin to like an NBA arena, or people who maybe have gone to hockey games. You're kind of in the upper bowl instead of the lower bowl. So really what we just heard was like a very passionate crowd that was clearly supportive of, you know, the best player on their home team. And again, they were booing Angel Reese as she went to the free throw line. And, you know, they had booed her at starting lineup introductions. Not surprisingly so, just as a very good visiting player. They had booed other players on the sky as they were introduced. And but certainly things elevated, were more animated as the rest of the game went out or went on. And we should say, like, both players after the game, they downplayed the sequence between the two of them. Both of them called it a basketball play. Now, Angel Reese said it was obviously a flagrant one on Caitlin Clark. Like, that was the right call to be made. Caitlin Clark said, like, again, she first said there was no malice, there was no ill intent in making the foul. She also used the phrase, like, this is a basketball play, but she was a little bit confused as to why it got upgraded. The reason why it was upgraded was the referee, again, Roy Gulbanian. I throw his name out. He was the crew chief. He told Chloe Peterson of the Indianapolis Star in a pool report that, like, basically Clark extending her arm and pushing Reese in the back is kind of the impetus for the upgrade of the flagrant one there. Kind of not making a basketball play or, you know, a legal gesture for a common foul. So, yeah, that's kind of that sequence.
Now, those of you who are listening to the podcast, you can't see that, you know, Ben is explaining this and also, like, physically showing us what Roy Gulbanian was explaining. You can make your own assumption, like, you know, breakdown and assess whether it was flagrant, whether it was an extension of the arm, whether the force justified the outcome where Angel Reese ended up on the floor, and then that galvanized Angel to get up and get in Caitlin's face and ask the question, what the F is wrong with you? You are crazy, X, Y, and Z. So listen to it, but also watch it, and you'll get to make that decision. So, Sabreena, after this happened, I'm laughing because it's just crazy that this all played out this way. Right before the start of the W launched a campaign called No Space for Hate. And this was in direct response to the ways in which WNBA players were regarded, especially in arenas and especially on social media, by people who conflated their own beliefs about these players with their basketball play and behaviors out on the court, and utilized it to justify harassment of the players, whether it be through social media, in person, etc., slurs being thrown, all the above. This was evidence, like this, there was evidence of this, so we're not just saying this out loud or just saying things out of context. So the WNBA knew this was a problem. They needed to address it. They announced this campaign in which it's basically no tolerance, zero tolerance, no space for hate. Then this happens. And the entirety of social media is saying, WNBA, go do your job. After this game happened, what did the WNBA say in regard to that campaign?
Yeah, so after the game, we should say in addition to what happened on the court, there were, allegations of racist comments made towards Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky at the Indiana game. The WNBA released a statement saying the WNBA strongly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination in all forms. They have no place in our league or in society. We are aware of the allegations and are looking into the matter. And as you mentioned, it comes directly off of the heels of the No Space for Hate program, a video that ran in every arena that had a game this weekend, right? I saw it a couple of times. Zena, I'm sure you saw it. Ben, I'm sure you saw it, right?
I did. I can confirm it did air in Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
It did air in Gainbridge, right? Yeah. So it aired, in Dallas when I was there and in Los Angeles when I came back. And yet this is something that arose on very opening weekend of the WNBA where there was an incident that they had to investigate. And, we had an opportunity to talk to a couple of players about this program and what they thought it would mean, for them and their potential online safety. I talked with Dejanay Carrington, who suffered significant online abuse last year when she was a member of the Connecticut Sun. And she was sort of measured in her response, like, it sucks that this is where we are, and I'm not sure what this is going to do, but you have to start somewhere, basically. And I think it's got to be super... It is kind of interesting that Stephanie White is the head coach of the Indiana Fever on this side of the discourse now, when she was the coach of the Connecticut Sun last year and had so many of her players deal with abuse predominantly at the hands of the fans of the team that she currently represents. So I do wonder how she is navigating both sides of that discourse, having obviously gone to bat for Dejanay and Alyssa Thomas and other members of the Connecticut Sun last season, and then representing this community now too. But like Ben said, like this was a great way to start the season with like Indiana and Chicago and capitalizing on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and what a game we were having, even if it did end up getting a little bit out of hand. But it was just like a really unfortunate reminder of everything that happened last season that I was hoping we could leave in last season, but unfortunately we have not left in last season, and there's still a part of the WNBA's fan base. Maybe it's part of the new fan base, maybe it's part of the existing fan base, not entirely certain. I don't want to claim that it's one way or the other, but there is a part of the WNBA fan base that is making this uglier than it should be, that is taking things personally when this was, as Angel and Caitlin both specifically said, a basketball play.
I'm going to ask both of you about this because I'm more new to the WNBA media space and observing what the WNBA does as a league. I've only watched really teams and players and such. How much credence do you give to this statement and the execution of what this will look like?
I think that's one of the big questions here. And Sabreena cited, talking to Dejanay Carrington, Asia Wilson actually was asked about this on Friday evening before Aces Liberty, not in obviously regards to what happened on Saturday. How would she have known that was going to happen? But just generally about the policy change. And she kind of said, like, it's nice words, but we have to see the actions. And I think players as a whole are appreciative that the league is, taking this first step in unveiling this platform. And obviously players also have talked about like wanting to make sure fans understand that there are people behind, that wear these jerseys. There are, real human beings with real emotions, with families, with support systems, like trying to help people understand the humanity and be respectful of the humanity of, everyone who is involved in women's basketball and again, in society more broadly. But I do think it is kind of one of the questions, and we should say like a lot of the specific details about what this investigation will actually entail, what they're looking at, who flagged it. Like, as we record this on Monday afternoon, Monday evening, like, there are some questions there about like what they're exactly looking at. We did see statements from the WNBPA who said they're supportive of the league, having this investigation. We saw statements from the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever in which they're saying, from the Sky's perspective, they're going to do everything they can to protect their players, and that they encourage the league to, again, like, take meaningful steps to create a safe environment. We heard from the Fever that said, like, they stand firm in their commitment to providing a safe environment. But I do still think, like, it remains to be seen what this platform actually means. Is it just a PSA? And there are some components, we should say, like, there are 4 components they said. Enhanced technological features to detect hateful rhetoric is one of them. The Chicago Sky actually last year even announced that they were working with like an AI company to try and clean up players' social media feeds and protect them from hateful speech. Other parts of this platform include an emphasis on team security, reinforced mental health services. Like, there are steps here, but to your point a couple minutes ago, Zena, about this being like a no nonsense policy, like, I think people are still wondering, like, what does that actually mean, right? Like, what is there repercussions here? What are the repercussions? What crosses the threshold for trigger an investigation or not? Like, there's a lot we still don't know. And basically, we're jumping right into a scenario here that they're looking into on, weekend 1 of the 2025 season.
Right. Well, I appreciate you guys breaking all of that down, because it is important to know the context, as all of us that are also fans are looking at the situation for what it's worth on its face value. And I think there's one thing I will credit the WNBA for: the fast response. It didn't take a week for them to come out and say, we're investigating this. They said it immediately. That is a start. That is a positive and a difference than anything we saw, where literally it was like pulling teeth to get the commissioner to say anything about what was going on in the WNBA. So I do give credit to the WNBA from that. From the perspective of, being a Black woman that has seen what's been going on with the rhetoric around these Black players, whether it was how Angel Reese was treated in Cambridge, how these Black players were treated last year, and how it's been communicated. Even we're starting to see it on social media. I think there's a lot of focus on the worst of the bunch, which are the actual racists, right? The people that this policy has directly called out. No racism, no hatred. And what I think is actually more harmful and more dangerous than the actual racists that wake up in the morning and choose to hate people based on the color of their skin or whatever, is the people that operate in this gray area. I'll call them the moderates. The people that operate in I love Angel and I love CC, but I see X, Y, and Z player doing X, Y, and Z thing, and I don't approve of it. And I think that when you operate in that way, with this kind of almost willful ignorance of offering an opinion that is subjective in nature under the guise of objectivity, and saying, well, I'm just calling it as it is, yet the thing that you're saying is punitively declaring one player as the oppressor, as the guilty party, as the perpetrator, and another player as the innocent party, as the victim, you're offering fodder to the discourse, and it's not helping. And I feel like I don't know what this policy is going to do. It might help with the extremists, the people that wake up and call players terrible names and like stand by that. But what's really happening is that there's a lot of statements that are kind of operating in the gray that are still as harmful in creating mindsets for fans in which it's okay to denigrate players off of basketball plays. And when people defend those players, the assumption is that they're being defended to do those things on the court, when the real defense is, no, we're just defending whatever they do on the court should not apply to their humanity, as you said, Ben. It should not allow you to deplete their worthiness of being talked to with respect and being considered normal human beings, and not having their character be judged as being enviable or hateful or harmful or violent human beings because they're of something they did while their adrenaline was high and they were competitive. So I'm very curious to see how this whole policy is going to not only apply to the extremists, the people that live to actually be racist and hateful and harmful, but also all of the things that kind of float in the middle and people might get away with because they play it under, well, I love the WNBA. I'm not racist. So we'll see how that actually, plays out. But what a start for the WNBA. Okay, so our takes are still baking. And before we get to them, we're going to quickly check in on the Sabreena scale. And yes, the name is staying right now because we haven't come up with anything better and y'all haven't come up with anything better. We did get a message saying that we need to resist the tyranny of alliteration, which if you don't work in copywriting, whoever wrote that, consider it because that is amazing. But alas, we're here. Sabreena, after these first games between these 8 teams, or the 8 games, excuse me, has there been any meaningful shift in your rankings?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is Washington, which I had as the worst team in the
2-0,
WNBA,
baby.
going 2-0.
2-0, baby.
Their rookies just absolutely crushing it. For people who listen to the podcast and don't read my weekly power rankings on theathletic.com.
Shame on you. Shame on you, first of all.
Thank you. One of the things I like to do is pick a rookie of the week every week, and between Sonia Citron and Kiki Iriafen, it was damn near impossible this week just because they're both so freaking good for Washington. Very, very excited about that pairing going forward. I know the WNBA GMs had a survey where they talked about the best, young cores. That was one of the questions heading into the season. Washington did not get any votes. I feel like they should have.
No way.
This is a very good young base in Washington. Admittedly, Indiana and LA got a lot of votes. I get it. But Washington has a really good thing going with Sonia Citron, who, hits the game-clinching free throws in the first win, game-clinching runner in the second win. Kiki Iriafen, standing up to Brittany Griner and Tina Charles in her first 2 WNBA games.
Crazy.
Very high level of difficulty. Both of them came to play, and that is why the Mystics are the biggest change in this week's scale.
I like it. I like it a lot. You might be looking a little bit in the oven on my half-baked take. But let's get into those because the W season is officially underway. And we have got some takes, some overreactions. Okay, we whipped these ingredients up real quick just off of 1 game, 2 games. And we put this puppy in the oven. All right, we're cooking it. We're cooking it, so just be patient with us. Now, I want to know your best half-baked take before opening or after opening weekend, Ben. And you're going to go first. And, Sabreena, we'll see. Is this worth eating?
So my take is actually a broad one, and it is that the WNBA's middle, which we were so high on, so many teams are going to be really competitive. There's so much stacked talent. It's actually just not as good as we thought. And that there are 4 really, really good teams in the WNBA, and there's a huge gap.
Was going to be a downer.
Huge gap between, teams 4 and kind of the rest of the league. And I have that first 4 being, again, New York, Las Vegas, Minnesota, and Indiana in no order. But and maybe you guys will hit some of these games, but I'm just going to throw a quick fact in on some of these teams. I mean, Seattle Storm, a really, really underwhelming performance that saw Gabby Williams and Ezi Magbagor shoot 2 of 18 from the field.
Oof.
Atlanta took a franchise record 36 threes in their opener against Washington. Didn't really execute down the stretch. Clearly has a lot to learn and figure out, especially on the defensive end of the floor in Carl Smesko's first year. Phoenix, great win over the Seattle Storm, but Kalia Copper out with a knee injury. She's going to miss at least a month right now.
4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks to start the season. That doesn't exactly inspire confidence on a team that already doesn't have a ton of depth. Chicago Sky, 29.1% from the field, 22% from 3, 17 turnovers. I get that they were playing the Fever, but not a great performance there. And the Dallas Wings too. I understand a lot of new players. We're going to give them time. One of the things that stuck out to me, there were 8 times in that game per synergy that they got scored off cuts. If you look at Minnesota, they were just slicing through backdoor, baseline cuts, slicing through the paint. I thought defensively, especially, Dallas has a lot of room to grow. So, those were some of the teams people were really, really high on that, wow, every team is going to be so close and maybe someone can jump into that next tier. And I came away being like, not so fast. Maybe we have a big gap between, legitimate finals contenders and everybody else.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing me wince. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, I hope you can feel me wince. Mainly because Ben just went through 3 teams that we all said were sleepers. And they showed up looking a little half asleep.
Yeah, I was going to say a little sleepy, yeah.
A little sleepy. It was rough openings for some of these teams. I was disappointed in Seattle. Absolutely. It looks like they still have not really figured out defense. Like, their offense, I think is as good as it was last year, and we'll see.
Scored 59 points,
Yeah,
I think they didn't figure out the offense either.
I'm just saying that it was as good as it was last year. I feel like there was some
worse,
issues there too. Yeah, but I'm thinking of without Jewel, right? So like, I'm really disappointed, and I also was like a little disappointed in the Dominique Malonga look. I didn't see much of all of the expectation we had out of the number 2 pick. So we'll see. It's a long season. Not that long, but it's longer than just one game. So, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's why I'm wincing, because I think I could eat this even before you put it in the Tupperware, like to put the ingredients together. This take is absolutely ready. Yeah, it doesn't even need more cooking. Turn the oven off. This take is actually right.
In fairness to us, we did say that there was a big gap between tier 1 and tier 2 in the WNBA. And I think, the gap was apparent. You're not going to pick a sleeper team from tier 1, Shame on us for none of us picking Washington. But I think when given the choice of those teams, you do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, Washington was the true sleeper. Absolutely the true sleeper. Okay, that feels good. Great job, Ben. Way to cook. Love it. Sabreena, what about you? What are you overreacting to in this moment?
So, half-baked is a good word here. I think it is low-key a good thing for Phoenix that Kalia Copper is going to be missing the first month of the season, because they have so many new things to integrate that to do it all at once would be a little challenging. And I like the way they looked, where you got the 18 minutes, you got the Satu minutes. Each of them just get to cook, because we're really going in on those words. And I think it'll be better in the long term to sort of get the superstars time on the court, where they get to be the lead actor, versus bringing all 3 of them in together.
Okay. Interesting. Now, your take is, I was not expecting that, but there's
what we're here for, Zena.
Yep, exactly. There's a question that we're going to keep for the mailbag about particularly this, because everyone saw Satu Sablu go the F off. Okay. She looks good. She looks like she is not dealing with an injury anymore. She is running very well. But it is a question of what is that going to look like when you've got someone that does require the ball in their hands a little bit, in Kalia Copper back in the mix. So, I don't know. I almost feel the opposite. I almost feel like I wish we could see it all in action early so they could figure it out with some of these new faces, which, by the way, I think Held.
Lexi Held, yeah.
Yeah, Lexi Held. I'm so sorry. In my mind, I'm watching the whole time. I'm like, Sophie she's not here. Nope, that's not Sophie. That is Lexi Held. I need to know. There's so many faces that she can shoot it, right? But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I kind of would want to see that all together and see what could happen and see what Coach Nate could do with that.
This is all
what do you
obviously
think,
based
Ben?
on the caveat that Kalia comes back within 4 to 6 weeks, so there are no hiccups beyond that. But for now.
Correct. Ben, what do you think about this take?
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit is that it allows these role players who may not have a ton of WNBA experience to actually settle in, get more comfortable, get live game reps, adjust to the WNBA. I mean, we saw Catherine Westbeld, making her WNBA debut as a 28, 29-year-old rookie, I believe, having never played in the WNBA before. She scores 9 points, makes an early impact in the first quarter, 5 rebounds. You mentioned Lexi Held. She has 11 and 22 minutes off the bench. There are these players that, again, are big question marks that are forced into bigger roles and will get valuable experience. So I think there's truth there. I do think, it felt comfortable to watch the Phoenix Mercury kind of without Kalia Copper, and that it felt like we were watching Alyssa Thomas from the Connecticut Sun, like Satu Sabali a little bit, like she's playing point guard, bringing the ball up the court, like orchestrating all of the offense. AT doing the same in times when Satu is not on the floor. So like those players know how to play those roles. And so in that way, like I guess the comfort is a little bit good, but I do still think I don't know how much like that will really impact the reintegration of Copper when she comes back, right? Like I do think when she comes back, there's still going to be a lot that they have to figure out because she is obviously a very high usage player and a very, very good player, obviously, but a high usage one who will have to fit next to them. The other thing, and this is why this is a half-baked exercise, is they played the Seattle Storm, who, as we mentioned, put up a real stinker. Again, 59
who we
points.
thought were going to be good.
That is true. And look, Phoenix was great on the defensive end of the floor. Again, the 59 points allowed was the low point, I believe, of the weekend. But again, like, let's wait and see a little bit on the Phoenix Mercury. This is where I'm not ready to, Zena give a stamp of approval of my take. I'm not ready to say, let's take this out of the oven, Sabreena. It's ready to go.
It's half-baked. I feel good about it.
Yeah. No, I'm with
the right
you.
level of take for this exercise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. I think we could put the thermometer in there, check it, open it a little bit, see how it's smelling. We're going to close it because it's still got to cook a little bit. But good job. Good start, Sabreena. Okay. Got to go to my take, which is, I think that the Rookie of the Year will be in Washington, not Dallas. That's my overreaction. That's my half-baked take. And that's what I believe.
Well, Lucy Olsen, right?
You're funny. Shout out to Lucy. She gets a good minute.
She had that midi going,
She
it's
did.
Such a weird form, but it works.
It works. Okay? It works. So that's my thought. What do you guys think about that one?
The history of number one picks winning Rookie of the Year, it's pretty deep. And I think voters just tend to default to the number one pick, all things being held equal. I love Sonia Citron. I don't think there was a player who the GMs in our anonymous survey before the draft liked better than Sonia Citron. Like, they had more concerns about Paige's ability to translate than Sonia Citron's. Just a rock solid player. I do think that Washington probably going to come down to earth a little bit. A win over Connecticut is a win, but also a win over Connecticut.
Yep.
I like the take because it gives you multiple options in Washington. You get Kiki Urife, you got Sonia Citron.
There's some hedging, saying.
But
you see what I'm saying. That's why it's half baked, but it's still good.
This is the time to make it. This is the time you got to plant your flag because I don't think the stock is going to get any higher than it was this weekend.
Correct.
In both directions.
I'm thinking 9 points in the fourth quarter. Sonia Citron closing out 2 games back to back. I'm thinking 17 points, 14 rebounds. Kiki with that one leg sleeve looking like a mini Asia. Yeah, I think I'm ready to say it. I think the Rookie of the Year is going to be somewhere by our nation's capital. We shall see. Ben, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess my two reactions are, one, good for Washington. They were 0-12 last year to open the season, so getting 2 wins, complete role reversal, claps to that. I was going to have a hot take off that hot take, Zena, and that is I would like to know how the Chicago Sky fans feel right now, knowing that they could have had Sonia Citron with that number 3 pick and, elected to basically have Ariel Atkins this year instead. Ariel Atkins, I think she goes 3 of 9 from the field in that blowout loss to the Indiana Fever. And we see Sonia Citron in game 1, as you mentioned, 19 points, 6 of 7 from the field, like super efficient, and then basically closed out that win over the Connecticut Sun. So, Sabreena, I don't know if it's a hot take to completely revisit your trade grades from that transaction a couple months back and give, I guess, Washington an A and flunk out the Chicago Sky, but I feel like that is the offshoot of that. Zena's take with another potential hot take right off the bat.
When you said Chicago Sky fans, what they would be feeling, I was like, oh, because Sidney Johnson was an assistant on the Sky last year, and now he's coaching the Washington Mystics and looks pretty damn good doing it. But just another wrinkle in that.
Okay, so guess what? My hot take is not only in the oven, it's inspiring a whole dinner. So I like that. I like that. There's more things being baked off of my hot take. I'm giving myself stamp of approval. All right. I like the half-baked takes. We will have to go see later in the season how we do on those takes. Obviously, my take won't be known until the end of the year, but we'll see what happens in a few weeks when it comes to, Cod Copper. And, of course, Ben, remind me of your take again.
Just the middle. We're just watching the middle.
The middle. Okay. I was like, how am I going to summarize that? But yes, we're watching the middle. We'll see if these teams that seem sleepy will wake up. All right. For the last part of our show, we're going to play a fun little game called Match That Player. And Ben, Sabreena, you guys are going to play together. Okay. And I think this should be relatively easy. However, you just never, ever know. So let's make sure I got all my answers all together. Okay. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of players. And I'm going to give you a list of stats. And you're going to tell me, you're going to match the player to the all-time leading stat. Okay? You guys fair? You guys good? All right. So let me just make sure I get my list up. All right. This will be before this weekend's games.
So through 2024.
Yeah. So first player is Sue Bird. Second player, Tamika Catchings.
We got to write this down, Sabreena. I got my pen and paper out. I'm writing it down. Okay.
Okay. Sue Bird, Tamika Catchings, Diana Taurasi, Elena Del Don, Tina Charles, and Alyssa Thomas.
For some reason I thought the list was going to end after 5 players, but it did not. Okay. 6.
Okay.
Got it.
Now, the stats that we're thinking about are the typical points, rebounds, triple doubles, assists, steals, and free throw percentage. Okay? Sue Bird, Tamika Catchings, Diana Taurasi, Elena Del Don, Tina Charles, Alyssa Thomas. And stats are points, rebounds, triple doubles, assists, steals, and free throw percentage. Folks at home, you can play along. So you have to tell me which player is matched up to which stat.
I think that's too easy, right?
So,
Ben, you want to just list them? All right. So Bird.
Yeah,
is
we could do it. Yep.
Yeah. Catchings is
I think steals.
Right, steals. Taurasi would be points. A good 3,000 points clear of anybody else. Elena Del Don would be
Free throw.
Right, free throw percentage. Tamika Catchings. I'm sorry, Tina Charles has got to be rebounds.
Rebounds, yep.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, Ben's favorite player.
Alyssa Thomas, triple doubles.
Okay, that's first round. Next
round.
Another
round.
Because that was too easy.
Do we have time for this?
Just the next round's very simple, very quickly. Can you give me the estimate of these stats in which they are leading? So in terms of the points, the closest number to by the 1,000. Rebounds, closest number by the 1,000. Triple doubles, closest numbers by
the thousands. I would say 0.
0,000.
by the tens. Assists by the thousands, steal by the thousands, and then percentage by the 10th of a percentage.
All right. Well, we'll start with Taurasi points is about 10,600. So I guess closest to 11,000. All right.
46. Get it, Sabreena.
Bird's assists.
3,000.
That you locking in?
That seems a little low, doesn't it? Is it low? I don't know. Actually.
I don't know. I'll go 3,000.
Right. I'm good. Yeah, 3,000 is good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
4. There you go.
Okay. Catching steals. So that'd have to be lower than 3,000, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, let's say Bird averaged like 6 assists per game. We got to go at least half that, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it feels
1,000
at least
would be
like
closest?
1,000 feels accurate.
Yeah.
1,074. There
Yeah.
we go.
Okay, good work,
Okay.
Sabreena.
Okay.
Nice.
Tina Charles rebounds. She did just set this last year. I feel like we should know.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like in the 5,000 range.
Okay, per this number, I'm not sure if it's the most recent, but it was 4,014.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so you missed that one.
4,000.
Okay, 4,014.
Alyssa Thomas triple doubles.
0,000.
Yeah, 0,000, right?
I want this by the ones, actually. I think you guys can.
By the ones.
Okay, that's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Is it like 30? Around 30?
I was gonna say less.
Have we
than
gotten
30.
there?
I was thinking like
it's like 20 or 30? Yeah.
I was thinking like 25-ish. Does that seem fine?
You guys locking in?
Or do you
Yeah,
want
I'll
to
go
go higher?
25-ish. Yeah,
Okay.
no. Lower,
25 's
yeah.
good.
25? Okay,
Yeah.
Alyssa Thomas, you have some fans out here. They think you are capable of that, which is wonderful. But she
It's
was
17?
she was just 10 under. She had 15.
She only
Yeah,
has
17
15. Are
would've
we
been
not
a-
counting playoff?
Are we counting postseason?
Oh, yeah. This is.
Yeah,
She
it
got a
is.
lot in
Good
the
work.
playoffs.
Great,
Yeah,
great work,
this
Sabreena.
is
We'll
regular
have to fact
season.
check it.
Okay, we'll have to fact check that. That's real. That's fair.
Okay, then
Okay.
Deladon. I know her 2019 season was ridiculous. She missed like 3 free throws all year. But career-wise, what's she got?
All-time leading stat.
93%?
Yeah,
Does that feel-
94% feels
Yeah.
fine here.
Okay.
Okay, that's crazy because it was 93.7%.
Oh, there we go.
Good work,
So
Sabreena.
literally rounds up
Yeah.
to 94. Well done, folks. If you needed any more evidence that these are the two experts you want to hear on analysis of the WNBA and that they know their stuff, Match That Player just gave you that proof.
But
Appreciate
you don't
that.
have to know this. This is what Google, this is what Basketball
Correct,
Reference, her hoop
exactly.
stats across the timeline. Like, there's no reason you should know these numbers, folks.
Absolutely, exactly. But that's why you're the experts and you do know this off the top of the dome. I love it. Great job. Well done, folks. I wonder how many people at home did well. Let us know. Let us know how you guys did on that game. All right. Well, coming up on Friday, more coverage of this first full week in the WNBA, and then we're going to get into some upcoming CBA and contract negotiations, which are definitely set to remake life in the W starting next season. Lots of new faces and new places. If you're wondering why, it's because the time is ticking until that next CBA, and a very special someone is stopping by. Diana Taurasi, folks, okay? She is in retirement and she's coming to hang with us. I don't know what that says about us. I guess we're cool to hang out with when you got nothing else to do. I'm just joking. You don't want to miss it. Definitely tune in for that. And also, last chance, send us your questions. We've seen them. We've been collecting them. If you've been wondering, why are you not commenting? Why are you not responding? It's because we're waiting to answer them during the mailbag episode. So definitely send all your questions about this upcoming season. Email us, find us on social media. We'll get to you, and those details are in the show notes. And if you haven't yet, hit that follow button. Rate us. Give us that 5 stars. We're working hard. We're making up trivia games on the spot. It ain't easy, folks. Give us that love. It always helps other people find us as well. And follow us on YouTube. Again, our facial expressions and gestures are so much more entertaining to get to see. And we got WNBA footage to be able to watch too. So definitely check that out. And as always, there's more to read and watch at our partner at Yahoo, Yahoo Sports Hub. So check it out, sports.yahoo.com, women-sports. All right. On behalf of The Athletic, I'm Zena Cada. Thanks for listening, y'all. We will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to No Off Season. To hear more, be sure to like and subscribe. We drop new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.